Thank God for Netflix. Welcome to Watch Mojo UK, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most hated British TV shows.
It's got BOs.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The reality TV age has introduced a slew of terrible shows, but even before that, Britain was home to some truly diabolical television. These are the worst of the worst. Number 10, Mrs. Brown's Boys. While undoubtedly a popular show, Mrs. Brown's Boys has attracted its fair share of haters too.
What's wrong with you, Grandad?
Haven't slept for 3 days.
According to its critics, it offers up a dumbed-down barrage of toilet humour for cheap laughs and not a lot else. Male actor Brendan O'Carroll plays the eponymous female character, with the central gender switch providing the basis for a lot of the jokes.
Have you thought about life insurance?
No, but I go for another kiss.
Meanwhile, the Irish setting just leaves you longing for the better written and generally funnier sitcom Father Ted. To think the BBC once housed the likes of Blackadder, swathes of comedy fans are still shaking their heads.
You know, I'll never forget the night I met your father. And don't think I haven't tried.
Number 9, Good Morning Britain. Next, the morning news show that debates hard-hitting subjects like whether babies should give consent before a nappy change and if shorts should be worn in the workplace. Or at least that's the line taken by its detractors.
So how did your little boy, aged 3 months, communicate to you that it was okay to change his nappy?
While the show does deal in headline news stories too, it's often criticised as a This Morning wannabe.
Could be smart up top, party down below.
As often it is.
And with the ever-polarising Piers Morgan as host, various interviews, debates and features have rubbed viewers up the wrong way. If this isn't your cup of tea, then it's less a good morning and more, good God, not this again.
How could he have mentioned my name? What are you all talking about? You're all wrong.
Number 8, Splash. Often cited as a prime platform for Z-list celebs, the novelty game show has had its ups and downs. The high dive centered Splash was probably one of the worst though. This time the concept was sold to the ever-eager Saturday night viewer as a chance to see famous folk make a complete pig's ear of an Olympic sport, with London 2012 bronze medalist Tom Daley on hand as mentor. The problem was that the participants seemed particularly unknown, without any real celeb appeal. And Joe Brand featured as a judge, for some reason. Fortunately, the show was put out of our misery after a mere couple of lacklustre series. Number 7, Change Your Tune. It's not often a show is so terrible. Audiences literally believe it to be an April Fool's prank. Yet that was the case with ITV's Change Your Tune.
I know I can count on you. Sometimes I feel like saying, Lord, I just don't care.
Unfortunately for the broadcaster, the opening episode left most viewers wanting to change the channel. The questionable concept consisted of the nation's most atrocious singers competing against one another.
Somebody to love.
The cynics might suggest that this show isn't all that different to most TV talent searches, but the ratings didn't exactly make for happy reading. Still, fair play to these contestants, though it's probably not a competition you'd really want to win. Number 6, Geordie Shore. As the UK's answer to Jersey Shore, few shows are more Marmite than this one. For those that like it, it's crazy, unpredictable awesomeness.
What the f***? It's Kristen! Just touched my lad's I'll f***ing have her!
For those that hate it, it's a warning to tourists against ever visiting Newcastle. The show sees a rotating cast of Geordies living in a house together, fighting, clubbing, and copping off with each other. And that's, well, that's pretty much it.
I'm confused. When you explain to me what's happening.
Like I told her how to.
You ended it with her because you were apparently getting feelings.
However, despite the disapproval it routinely attracts, it has been successful enough for the cast to splinter off into a variety of usually just as divisive reality TV ventures. Go figure.
Stop it! Stop it!
Number 5, Benefit Street. Channel 4 seemed at their exploitative best with this one. Benefit Street was briefly all over the papers in 2014 as a show centred on the unemployed.
Got some microwave mashed potatoes in the house.
The action took place on a seemingly nondescript road where an apparent 90% of the people living there were on state benefits. But it wasn't only the dicey subject matter that had viewers incensed, but also the way the show presented itself.
Plank chunk of wood over there and Tony's not far. Someone's gonna have to move here.
Its critics claim that the people on it were portrayed as subhuman, filmed as though the focus of a nature documentary. Ofcom was flooded with complaints, so how did the network respond? With Immigration Street, a year later, of course.
It's so depressing, isn't it?
It's just disgusting.
Number 4, The X Factor. As easily the most successful show to feature today, in terms of ratings, the fact that The X Factor has been the mainstream TV juggernaut for well over a decade is perhaps what most frustrates those that can't stand it.
Stay on the stage.
With millions tuning in year after year to witness contestants trying to break out from their often mundane lives and into a world of riches, the formula is firmly set.
Hang on.
Shut up!
But despite all the glitz, glamour and promises of glory, the winners often turn out to be but a flash in the pop music pan, at best, returning to their ordinary routines barely more famous than when they began. Simon Cowell, on the other hand, is laughing all the way to the bank.
Is there anything that you like about Simon?
Not really.
Number 3, Heil Honey, I'm Home. The sitcom where Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun must come to terms with their new neighbours being Jewish.
Don't touch me. You've been late for your dinner every night this week.
Ava, babe, please. I'm the Fuhrer.
Yep, this was actually a thing. Does anything else even need to be said? This offended just about everyone in the early 90s, which was a time when people getting offended was supposedly quite rare.
I'll show him around the town, we'll have a few beers, he'll forget about Czechoslovakia. He'll think, hey, this Adolf Hitler is a regular guy.
Needless to say, Heil Honey, I'm Home was swiftly cancelled after a single episode. What those who commissioned it were thinking is anyone's guess, let alone those who created it.
Okay, that's good. They don't know.
Number 2, The Jeremy Kyle Show. It's the British, yet arguably even more pitiful, version of the infamous Jerry Springer Show, although Jeremy's critics would likely view a comparison with Jerry as far too kind.
Yeah, well, you know what? This is the thing that we'll never agree on, me and the experts. I'm terribly sorry you lost your husband, and I'm sure it was easier to dive down a bottle. But when you've got 2 young kids, they're supposed to come before you.
Kyle seems a far angrier host after all, barking advice at his guests on the daily. And for those that dislike his show, it seems to stand as a flaming beacon for everything that's wrong with British telly.
It's a bear pit, it's disgusting, I hate it.
How many fractured situations Jeremy has managed to mend remains up for debate, but the guests rarely seem to exit the show in a much better place than when they entered.
Do me a favour, don't ever do that or you can get out this studio and out of this building.
Number 1, Big Brother. We finish with the show that apparently refuses to die, and arguably started the reality TV wave responsible for several of the entries on this very list.
You aren't fat, at all. I wake up to this every day. You don't.
The lasting legacy of Big Brother is therefore perhaps its biggest crime. Even those who hate it today are likely to concede that it started with reasonably noble intentions as a televised social experiment. However, it wasn't long before BB descended into the trashiest of television, with contestants accused of being everything from fame-hungry fakes to big-mouthed bullies.
You look angry. Don't be angry, pussycat.
I'm not angry.
Don't look
call me a pussycat.
And all while those that run the show design tasks to trigger fights, feuds, and fully fledged psychological torment. It's a lot of things, but for a lot of people, it's just not that likeable.
I'm sorry, but I'm sick of it.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo UK, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.